So we've come to the borough of Lewisham in South London. Lewisham, like any other place in any city in a modern world, has a problem with junk. There's fly tipping on the streets, there's graffiti, there's broken stuff lying around. It costs a fortune to clear up. We're here to see Nigel Tyrell, who's come up with an application, a web application, that helps you and me clean this stuff up. He's also put it in the cloud so that lots of other places can use the same application to help keep their streets clean as well.
The idea for this started back in 2004. We had the idea to post images from the street using a mobile device into a live web application. The thought behind that was to capture issues, street scene issues, without the need to attach photos to an email or to remember to do that kind of thing when you got either home or got into the office. So even with the best intentions, people get waylaid and they get dragged into other things. So we wanted to use that technology to post things immediately onto a web page so that colleagues could do something about it and make it easy. Using Love Clean Streets is very, very simple. So someone with a mobile phone using an MMS message, or someone using a smart device, either an iPhone or Windows 7 phone, any of those kind of BlackBerry devices, take a picture, add a little bit of text. Now either if it's a smart device, GPS is captured, or if it's an MMS message, then they need to put a little bit about with postcode perhaps, or a bit of location, and then hit send. That posts it straight into the web application, and it's displayed on an admin panel to be approved by an administrator. So there's a little filter prior to it being made public so that we can edit out any naughty words on graffiti or anything a little bit naughty that someone's decided to post. We don't get too many of those kind of things, usually nasty words in graffiti that we need to block out. Looking at the Love Clean London application, the reports page shows us a map with the map pin and the location of the problem. Next to the map pin is a photo. So we're fairly image based with this because that cuts the need to pre-inspect jobs and allows us to send the right resource to deal with a problem rather than send someone to pre-inspect. So it's great to look at this photo, and then you can see alongside the photo a caption or a little bit of further detail being provided by the user. When that job's been completed, there'll be two photos there, and you can scroll through the before and after photo on the site. There's also another page within the web application that shows all of the recent reports on a Silverlight map, so a variety of pins that people can see.
Who built this for you, and how did they go about doing it?
A company called Bits we've used as a partner for a number of years, and our initial conversation with them was, is this possible? Clearly they thought it was, and then they modelled up the approach with us to pretty much our specification. But then as time's moved past and other capability has arisen, GPS within devices, that kind of thing, extra functionality's been added onto it, and more recently other social networking aspects, posting things to Twitter accounts has become a feature of the app. So things evolved, and we've evolved this with an external partner throughout the process.
This was always a hosted application, wasn't it? It was never on site on your own servers.
The application's always been hosted, and we've never hosted this within Lewisham's infrastructure. So it's always been, to some extent, on a kind of precursor to cloud computing. It's been there on the web, and we made a point of doing that, quite deliberately, keeping it outside of the council's infrastructure so that we could evolve and develop it as and when we needed to do so. So we've never had this deep within Lewisham's systems. It's always been attached or linked to, but it was a separate space. And it's been separate really for service reasons and for relationship reasons with customers, so that it looked aligned to Lewisham but not part of a routine .gov site, which was, we saw that as a good thing. It needed to be kind of middle space where we could cooperate and work as a partner with residents and citizens rather than just being a sort of service provider, recipient of all of their issues.
So when did you first have the idea that this could be moved to the cloud, and why?
The idea to move Lewisham onto the cloud came from a suggestion by our IT partner. We've wanted to share this with other authorities, and we've had loads of interest from not only other councils but other organisations like housing association providers, quite a range of organisations both within the UK and beyond. So to be able to do this, to make a white label version of this available for the public so that it can be used anywhere, but also so that our IT provider can offer custom local versions, Leicester, or branded versions aimed at specific communities. Cloud provided that opportunity to do this quickly, so other authorities, other organisations can use this and use a branded version within 3 weeks of deciding to do so, which is pretty quick. And we don't need to worry about configuring servers, whether servers can take the demands. If it were to appear on a local newspaper or local TV programme, is that going to create a demand that we can't handle? Cloud can deal with that, and we can focus on service delivery and sharing the app and the functionality without getting bogged down into the provisioning of servers and all that kind of stuff that's really of no interest to me at all. So we can deal with the service delivery.
A lot of our readers, and especially in the public sector, they're worried that there's a lot of problems with governance in the cloud. Did this not worry you?
In terms of data security, it's an argument that's been put to us from a few directions, and there are a couple of attitudes towards this issue from my perspective. First being the kind of data that we're storing isn't personal data. We're not storing credit card details, we're not storing housing benefit details, any of that kind of stuff. And the other aspect, this has always, as I've mentioned, this has always been hosted externally. That's been on the web to some extent, and the fact that there's one gatekeeper for this data, and the fact that that's Microsoft rather than our IT guys, doesn't worry me at all. The data's hosted according to our data protocol within the EU. So again, there isn't a big change to this. Personally, I'm satisfied and comforted by the fact that there's one gateway to all of this data. And if we've got several authorities' information stored here, there's one place, stored in one place. It's not stored in several different places, which I would think makes it less vulnerable in terms of security problems than more vulnerable. So I'm fairly relaxed about it, and we've not had any issues that would cause concern on that front at all.
Why Microsoft, and why Microsoft Azure?
Well, that's the reason we're using Microsoft Azure is partly historical, because the authority and our IT partner are Microsoft partners, and the infrastructure has been Microsoft. So we've used SQL Server in the past, we used SQL Server replication between the devices. Initially, we were using Windows mobile devices exclusively for posting data to the site. So there has been a fairly long-standing relationship and familiarity with Microsoft. So the move to the cloud, again, it was straightforward. Let's look at Microsoft Azure, and that's performed very, very well. And it just builds on our relationship with Microsoft products and our confidence that they're robust and deliver what we need to get the job done. That's our attitude towards Microsoft's products.
You've always kept this semi-detached from Lewisham. Are you thinking of expanding the service, and are you thinking of integrating it with other Lewisham services?
I think in terms of making the cloud infrastructure a platform for other council systems, I think that's definitely going to happen at some point. Given that I'm responsible for environmental services, it's a little bit beyond my scope of control, but I think the momentum is already established. The sort of business case certainly stacks up in terms of shifting other council services into the cloud. If you look at London, we've got 32 separate .gov web applications running on different systems. That would seem an obvious place to start for a cloud-based single app that's customised for each local authority. But that's well beyond my scope of control, and I'll have the IT people after me for even suggesting it, I should imagine. They'll tell me to stick to refuse trucks and graffiti removal, I should imagine. Or they'll start getting interviewed about waste management and causing me trouble.
So can you tell me briefly about the other people who've picked up on this idea and are using it for themselves?
Different authorities have picked up the idea and have created separate branded versions. The first was Oldham, and they for a number of years have been running a website called Tidy Oldham, which is a fantastic application. Different in some ways in approach from Lewisham. Very early on they had a relationship with Greater Manchester Fire Service, who have been reporting things using that site. And in Lewisham we started our work with the police service, and it was interesting to see that variant. Leicester, City of Leicester have got One Clean Leicester web application. Northumberland, a similar web application. Today, Medway Council have launched Love Clean Medway, or Love Medway, I think it is. So there have been a variety of UK apps, and Jamaica in the Caribbean launching one in May, which is very, very exciting. I think we're calling it Completely Kingston, because it's within the Kingston and St Andrews part of Jamaica.
So are you sticking with cloud and specifically Microsoft Azure in the long term for this?
I think the future's going to see more of the same, really. I think Microsoft Azure as a platform is going to be with us for a considerable amount of time, but the concept of shifting these kind of services into the cloud is definitely, in my opinion, here to stay. And it looks like a good way of sharing an infrastructure without adding unnecessary costs. So the days when local authorities would see something that they liked and then recommission and reprocure within a separate system, I think we're seeing less of that, and the cloud will enable sharing of stuff, the ability to customize, because there is a value in having a Lewisham dimension to this, or an Oldham dimension to draw the local community in. But you can do that using an existing infrastructure. So I think we're going to see more of that across a wider range of services in the future.